Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you're listening to Above the Ground podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, our network is going into its 15th year and is listened to in over 30 countries. I'd like to personally thank you for giving me the gift of your time, as it is my honor to hold space with you. And today, again, we are in for a very special treat with a dear friend and also yoga instructor by day or by night, and share, and with a very important and very, oh gosh, I want to use the word magnanimous, quote unquote, day job. And she is here to share with us, what called her heart there, the reasons why she made the shift. And with that, would you please introduce us and
Yes.
let us know exactly what called you to sustainability and to, how we can all better serve ourselves, our communities, and our planet. I hope.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. In time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gia, very much for the introduction and for having me back here.
Thank you.
I appreciate that greatly and gives me a chance to talk about myself and my work. So that's always fun. But yes, ask questions if I get off topic. Yeah, I really appreciate the chance to talk a little bit about my role as teaching sustainability courses to people and what is sustainability and why does it matter. I came upon sustainability as a topic in general back 1997, last century, when I was making a career change. And I had been in the corporate world and was kind of looking for something that I could kind of understand better in terms of my place in the world. So I decided to do a career change, moved to Seattle, and got involved with some volunteering on the ground and community around gardening and connecting with a lot of like-minded folks that were looking for a little bit more from life than maybe the corporate world. So I connected with this group and really got involved in sustainability at the community level. Like that's where it all starts. So I myself got involved with that, worked for a local government, worked for some nonprofits, helping to, a big part of it is to do outreach and do community education as to
Absolutely.
different choices, right? Transportation choices that we have out there, ways that we can reduce our waste and dispose of waste. So I really got into working on sustainability issues and decided to pursue my education. So I've been always loving learning new things. So I followed that path in as kind of these issues were emerging in the world. And so that was a pivotal time, I think, in my career, was to engage in something that now, as one of my primary philosophies, teaching philosophies, is to get students engaged in their community in a way that they can observe what sustainability might look like in their community. So I do a lot of community-based projects, and where students are teaching both online students as well as students that are on campus in my past role. So we've done things like a waste audit for the university. So a practical application of what does the waste look like here? That's a kind of characterization study. So we know how to get to the root cause of things and stop those behaviors that are causing certain waste, and how do we design programs around that. So we do a lot of problem solving, and depending on kind of frameworks that spell out the principles of sustainability and strategies for moving forward. So in a nutshell, teaching undergrads and graduate students to think about how to apply some of these lofty concepts in the real world. That's what I'm trying to do.
And would you say that, sustainability has kind of what I will say almost a direct parallel or correlation to efficiency? Um, because it sounds like just by, and again, we're just picking you picked the audit that you did as an example, but when we're talking about long-term trends of let's say usage consumption, that kind of a thing,
Oh
is
yeah.
is it efficiency has to play a role in not only waste on a mass level the way that you're talking about, but even in our communities, in our day to day, in our own personal lives, right? So would you say that that plays, how important a role is efficiency, and how does that help us, on the macro versus the micro level?
Oh, that is huge. Efficiency is really the number one thing to look at because efficiency usually can be addressed and responded to by a behavior change.
Right.
So, if we look at energy, which is a good example, so like our energy usage in our home, there's two strategies basically. Efficiency, how efficient are you? Is your envelope of your building tight so you're
Yep.
not losing a lot of energy, are you, insulated, is it insulated well enough, are your windows, air leak? So just really the tightness of the envelope of your home is really the efficiency of your home. And then are the kind of strategies to do more of a adaptation, or reducing as your source. So you can put on solar panels, for example. But if you don't have an efficient house to begin with, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do solar panels because it's such an investment. So you got to make sure you got a tight building. That actually can be a lot of savings there.
Right.
So efficiency is number one strategy, but then you can, also get renewable energy sources. So you might reduce your carbon emissions, which we've, proven have caused a greenhouse gas effect, which is, trapping heat gases in our planet that is causing climatic weirdness, right?
Right.
Um, Wildfires, flooding, things happening, extreme storms in the Gulf Coast. So we're seeing these things play out, uncertain as to how the climate system will change. It's changing, so in a way that we haven't seen. Um, so that, part of the teaching is also like, how do we deal with these uncertainties? Well, we're not only doing the mitigation piece where we're reducing emissions, but we're also doing the adaptation piece, which is more preparing for the impacts, right? Okay, we're going to still try to reduce our carbon emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions, same thing. But at the same time, we know we might have extreme storms, sea level rises that might affect our beach house. So we might have to adapt the landscapes with maybe more green. We might have to adapt to not living on the ocean shore. People, it's development has caused a lot of these issues. So there's adaptation is a huge part, thinking through long-term, potential impacts from things like climate change or biodiversity loss. Those are probably the biggest, out of control things.
Right.
And just trying to mitigate and adapt. So we
And
think
so
about those things. Yeah.
and so one of the things I think that this comes into play for us, again, on the, I can only speak with my limited knowledge on the situation, to the micro level of unfortunately convenience. The problem is that convenience is 9 times out of 10 a direct, the opposite of efficiency, and it's the opposite of a thought through, planned, it's the styrofoam cup theory, right? It's easy, it's easy, it keeps your hands from getting burned, right? And then it's going to pollute and toxify our existence. So it kind of comes into the same thing like a fast food model, right? So again, I'm going to come from the health and well, I have like that's my
Mm-hmm.
background. So
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
is it, what's quicker and easier, stopping at some sort of no name mentioned drive through to get your food, or going to a farmer's market, taking a biodegradable bag with you, going home to your home and making a meal that's going to nurture you and is going to take, oh, I don't know, quadruple, 10 times the amount of time versus grabbing something in the car on the way. And again, that element of convenience, when you, then it kind of triggered me when, and I don't mean triggered in a negative way, but when you mention, living on the coast, well, yeah, people love to go to the coast. It's super inconvenient to have to drive there, right? So the people that live on the coast generally have deep pockets and the ability to purchase properties such as that. And they're beautiful and they're wonderful and amazing, but are they doing harm? And is that convenience or that human instinct of me first, that Darwinian, we reach the top of the food chain by dominating everything around us, right? That mentality definitely comes into play when we're talking about, the harm potentially that we're doing to the planet and our maybe lack of foresight or our potential selfish impulses that we put in front of the immediate desire that comes before, our children's children are going to have to worry about that.
Oh yeah, I mean,
not our problem.
right, right. Well, those are perfect, comments. Like, first of all, what you're describing is tragedy of the commons. There's like, that's a theory where, if it's a public space in general, then, no one's taking ownership of it. And so it becomes the commons and it gets trashed. And right. There is a tragedy in that human behavior. For sure. So how is it solved? There's been all sorts of scholars trying to figure out how to solve the tragedy of the commons, but it usually boils down to cooperation. Let's all work together to make sure that we take care of our coast, But the other thing, you started with talking about like, so what do? Go to the farmer's market with my, reusable bags, but I can't go to, Walmart. Well, I think that at the bottom line of it all is we're embedded in this system for sure. So that's part of the thing, right? And so how can we do with our choices, shift the system? Buy locally will be helpful. Maybe we don't give as much money to corporations that are outside of our place because they don't care that much about our community. Maybe there's a continuum, on one end of the continuum is the ultimate care, you're doing everything right. Like you said, you're walking to the farmer's market with your reusable bags, buying only local produce. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you're driving your SUV to the Walmart and loading things up that are plastic, packaged with lots of plastic and things that don't biodegrade. So you got two ends of the spectrum, and the idea is in between to kind of educate ourselves or become aware of what are my choices in between there. There's always trade-offs. And so we don't want to like beat ourselves up. But we realize that, that could be the most, well, maybe I'll just then drive my car to the basil bandwagon and get organic food instead of,
shameless basil bandwagon plug, because that's where I do all my shopping. But I love that.
Do you? Yes. I love that.
I do. Exactly. I love them. Yes. Ralph is the best. I will tag them when I post it.
Totally. Well, there's trade-offs to everything and we can't do everything right. But then, maybe I'll ride my bike 2 days this week to work or, lean into it, right? Like we
walk
do
across the street. We can case.
Right. So, and then there's health benefits too. So it's not necessarily just a, tree hugger woke, way to look at life, but it also, it feels good and you connect with your community. You can, get more exercise, walk around your community, eat healthy foods. So anyway, there's lots of trade-offs involved, but kind of thinking through, as we being aware of the choices we're making, we make so many every day, what could be the one that would be, meet all those things. It's economically, feasible for me. It's, not a lot of packaging. It's not that much of a, imprint on the planet. And, it supports my local economy, so as best as possible, like trying to think of those things when we're making decisions. So getting students to think about that, like I have them, create an audit for their household. And so, what are the things that, based on these sustainability principles of, land degradation, toxic, persistent chemicals. There's like 3 ecological sustainability principles that you can really apply to seeing what you're doing that might, not be super sustainable, but we can't do everything. Just kind of getting students to think in those terms and applying it, and reflecting on things. Um, and you had mentioned to me how your theme this week is, filling your cup, kind of. And I think just based on what I know about you and how you engage in your community, I think that would be such a big thing to do to fill your cup is, get involved in your community in some way that, helps you connect to people and also make it, the world a better place. So if it's a river cleanup, which we've got one happening in Highbridge, and I'm kind of telling myself this too, because I'm fairly new to this area and I need to, connect more with my current community here, your backyard. So,
Well, and I do sit on the board of a local land trust, so I'm working in that, and we do cleanups monthly. And we have a 10-mile trail system that we're putting together, and it's the Tewksbury Land Trust. I'll plug that as well. Why not? So please join us anytime. And yeah, it's huge, and it's how I've met so many people in the area with shared and common values. And I think that it really, when it comes to the idea of filling your cup, and it's about what serves your highest good, not so it's like the opposite of convenience. It's not what serves your immediate need, it's what serves your best overall, the macro, right? Like, what are you keeping that nurtures your soul? What are you doing for yourself? And I kind of jokingly plugged Marie Kondo and the sparking joy, but in all seriousness, in that mindset, as you purge your closet, as you purge your life, as you purge your diet, as you go through the audit of your home and the energy efficiency of that home, or your impact that you're having, what does spark that joy? What are you going to keep? And it's all about bringing that balance in, because as yoga instructors, as meditators, as people who are conscientious, right? Like, it's about being conscientious at life for yourself, for your surroundings, and for your planet. And I've said so many different times that, when I'm talking about, this is usually on a Reiki bent, but when I'm talking about, being that light, making someone's day brighter, like any interaction that you have, if you see someone in the store and you like her glasses, like your glasses, or your beautiful necklace, and you just say, hey, that's a beautiful necklace. And that person, right? It's kind of like pay it forward. Yeah. That person smiles, and maybe they were having a crap day, and maybe they feel a little better. And you're just being that little bit of light. And I always imagine it as the picture of the planet at night, again, for sustainability, not ideal, but with the cities lit up, right? As you said, it's all about your local community. And it's like, if I do that little light and you do that little light, and then everybody lights up, and it's a choice. It is absolutely a choice, whether you're going to be that light or whether you're going to be the person that cuts in front of that same lady who's got a beautiful necklace and is having a bad day, right? And make it a little worse. So it's really about consciousness.
That's so true. And I think that when you have a community that comes together to work on something to better the community, there is that kind of bond that happens, amongst people, and a shift that, that could really shift a community. And I think that, I really felt that in my high school years, like, because I was involved with all these community things, but then I went off to college and the corporate world, and I just felt so disconnected from that. And it did affect, like, from a community kind of stance, like, who's my neighbor down there? I lived in a big city, and so, coming back to kind of more of this community-based work really did nurture my soul as far as my life's work. And I think maybe the theme is, what we all need to ask ourselves and be curious and about, what does fulfill us and fill our cup? If it's engaging in community, what way is that? Maybe we need to do a community-based yoga in the park.
Absolutely. We should absolutely do that. Yeah. And I'm actually, spoiler alert, I may already have a nod to that with the board that I sit on. But maybe you can come
Oh,
in on we can share that if you'd be
I'll
happy
just
to
and
teach a
come
yin
in.
class. Yeah, or you can just come and I'll lead the
Sure.
class and we can do that too.
Yeah,
But
totally. Oh, I
yeah,
love it.
yoga is its own. The other thing that's wonderful about this is again, to not to be trite, but the whole think global, act local is basically kind of what we're touching on, right? And that aspect of, you know, yoga is its own community, and with how much connectivity we have to everyone on the planet, in theory, most people, um, the ability to share positivity and to I know that especially when we're talking about sustainability, part of the motivation, I'm sure, for many people involved in what you do is, I don't want to say it's fear based, but it's reality based. And the reality is not necessarily pleasant, right? Like our impact as a species on this planet is not loving. It's a little more take, 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 and a lot less give, give, give. And so, like, how can we how can we come from that place of love and support of mother nature, of what sustains us, of what literally, like the one episode that I did was April showers to fill your cup, what literally fills our cup, the rain that literally nurtures our soil, that literally feeds us, the bees, the gentle bees, like what can we
Mm.
do for the bees, I mean, like
Just the
focusing.
miracles, yeah, of life all around
Yeah.
us, the birds and yeah, coming out and all the babies and yeah, it's really a miracle, isn't it? So that's kind of that connection between, you know, somehow these bigger human activities, and they're so beyond just our control, but we can collectively shift systems if we try. And
Yeah.
we are. It is happening. I mean, there are the farmers markets now more than ever. Now there is a lot of, clean organic food available. There might be more transportation options, more rail or like bike trails and rail trails than maybe there was 15 years ago. But so we're making progress. And so it's not like all doom and gloom based on maybe mainstream what we hear in the news,
Right,
because
right.
those people are still doing the work. Um, and we do need to make behaviors that we want more convenient. So that is a big challenge. Um, like the EV and things, slowly get adopted and prices come down if they do get adopted. So, you know, market transitions are never easy, but new technologies come in, and there's lots of uncertainties with in life in general. So for me, I think having a grounding in some ways that I can kind of particularly view my actions and things is helpful, and just also have faith that the planet will stay good, clean, and good for us.
Yes. So to that end, may I ask, are there any, I'm gonna air quote the word convenient, are there any tips and tricks that you can share for the average bear homeowner, or or family, other than obviously like smaller things than redoing all your windows, like accessible daily things that maybe are, I like to call them like simple swaps, right? So think of like when you're talking about dietary things, swapping avocado for mayo, right? Like easy health swaps. Like, are there any
Yeah,
sustainability swaps that we can, other than obviously like plastic bags are already no longer a thing in New Jersey, which is a good thing.
yeah.
But are there
Well,
other small things we can do?
I guess I think, first thing, I just really, plastics are such a problem on the planet. There's the plastic floating garbage patch out there, and, plastics don't really break down all the way. I mean, they're going to be there forever. Then they're breaking down into PFAS kind of, microplastics that are seeping into, waters and stuff. So I would say that plastics, if you can just avoid plastic packaging, yes, it's not convenient. And I just those plastic water bottle, plastic bottles filled with water from the convenience store, that really makes me so upset. So if we can kind of just eliminate all the plastic that comes into our life, I think that would be great. Um, and food waste is another big source of methane emissions but if you compost it, or maybe if there's, I don't know, food waste is something to try to keep out of the landfill and out of your, garbage can. So
Got
are
it.
you able to compost in your jurisdiction or
I'm going
in
to
your
be a
backyard?
very, very bad human by telling you that I don't actually have the answer to that question, and I should, but I would imagine we're a very rural community. So my guess is probably
Yeah.
yes. Um, but we also have a lot of all of our waste disposal is private. So
Okay.
that may play a role in that as well. Like we don't have public municipal waste here that I'm aware of. It's all privately
Okay.
sourced.
Okay. Well, in general, when you look at kind of global emissions, food waste is can be a big share. So keeping that to a minimum in the landfill, throwing it into your garbage can, is always recommended, but it's hard to do.
So composting out here is generally referred to as feeding the fox, is what I'm going to be honest about. So if there's
Yeah,
like food
right.
stuff, it's all like 9 times out of 10 with anyone that I know in the area. It's like, we have some very happy crows out back. We have some very happy foxes. Like that food waste. If there's again a plastic takeout container that came home with you that you didn't get to, bear, fox, raccoons, someone out there is eating well this evening. Let's put it that way. More so than
Oh, shoot.
more so
That's
than
true.
the garbage pile.
We also have a fox. So yes, I totally can relate to that. But if you just do plastics, no, and
Yeah.
just, think about other ways to, if you can walk to your store or walk to your local restaurant, maybe once or twice. You are always walking around your neighborhood, but
I'm always
I think
walking.
in general, it's such a, that's another thing that fills your cup is walking around your
Yeah.
community, I think. Don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my, walking, I think if there's, and I will, it's again touching a little bit on the not so thrilling side, but I have an elderly father and he had a hip injury. Well, he had an issue that created an issue with his hip. And I'll tell you, he was always so active. He worked out all the time, and when that hip issue, he can't really walk and work out anymore. And mobility, and as switching to the yoga instructor, like if you don't move it, you lose it. Like walking, if you do nothing else in your life for your physical health, walk anywhere, everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Keep
Keep
moving.
walking. It
Right.
is so
Exactly.
and so imperative. And yeah, not only is it wonderful for you, it helps the planet, right? If you're lucky enough to live in an area where you can walk two places, right? And so it's only. I mean, I don't think there's anything but benefit to it.
Hmm. I
Literally.
agree. Yeah, and it's such a good way to connect with the critters and the plants and just, um, yeah, I agree that if there's anything, I'll take a walk every day in our neighborhood is probably a good thing for our psyche.
Absolutely. And if you can go out in nature and forest bathe and, and go on a hike, it's just that's just so positive for your body and your mind, right? The surroundings
Yes.
do play a part for sure. Um,
Yes, I've been doing my earth meditations this week.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, it's hard not to. Things are bursting or starting to, yeah, but
Yeah,
anyway, not bursting
there.
yet, but
It's happening though. It's very exciting. So
it
as you
is,
as
yeah.
you brought that up, that was going to be, one of the things that I wanted to, push off till the very end. But when we talked about conscientiousness, we talked about, these things that you can do, being conscious of plastic, right? Like, and we try to be. I know everyone tries to be, but it seeps into our existence, and so having that be, that if you can do nothing else, do that, right? That's the most important thing. But of that idea of mindfulness and those little swaps, those little being present enough in the moment to take a pause and say, I'm gonna bring a metal water bottle with me instead of grabbing that gas station water bottle. But that mindfulness has to come from, and that conscientiousness has to come from being able to take a moment outside yourself, beyond yourself, and to be in the present and to be in the present moment. And
To,
can
to
can
really
we
be,
do that on a large scale level?
excuse me, I was thinking with that, like really being intentional in that present
Yeah.
moment. Like I, intentionally am going to just pay attention to the plastic that comes in my life. My partner never really paid attention to that, and he was
No names
using
mentioned.
plastic sandwich bags. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's reusable bags. Oh, but these are just plastic. So anyway, that's a hard behavior to change.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but you know what? You have the first step is acknowledging it, right? Like you have to, and I will be honest, I will plug them again. I would buy, gallons of alkalized water, and I saw my recycling bin and I saw like how much, and I was, ugh. And a certain store, which shall remain nameless, just kidding, no, it's Basil Bandwagon, has a flow water machine. And I saw not only the price differentiation, because a lot of times people, I think, get hung up on the, oh, well, organic's expensive, or, oh, well, I've literally had people say to me, like, Basil Bandwagon's so expensive. I'm like, like, I'm very dietary restrictive, and it's, pretty much eating for one. So, it's I don't have a family of 4 to shop for. But also to that end, it's significantly less expensive to bring a bottle and fill up on the flow water machine that they have there. It's a significant less cost versus,
cool. Yeah.
like I encourage you to check it out. And that has saved, I don't even know how many plastic water bottles from entering the landfill. And I saw the extreme. I was like, wow, this is on my part. Like, so confession, right? Like sheepish hand raise. It was me. I am the problem, right? And I saw it, and now I take my metal water bottle to the gym, and I have my gallon jug, and I fill it up. And I think it's becoming aware. I think awareness.
Yeah.
This is not news to anybody, but you're so right. Being intentional and
there's always going to be an opportunity to buy something to solve that problem. But do we need to buy something new? Is another big question we ask ourselves. Like, it's great. I mean, I love new stuff too, but consumption is out of control. And another thing, my partner loves Amazon. And it's so easy just to click, click, click and get something the next day if you need a screw or a, tool or, whatever. And, each time you do an Amazon order, you should try to collect them at one time is my
hit the all-in-one box button, right? Yeah.
Right. Sorry. Thank you for letting me have a little bit of, airing out my.
Hey, listen, I mean, I've been told by I have a partner of mine who says, why don't you just order your dog food from Chewy? Well, because I'm going to go to the little mom and pop pet store that I've been going to for over a decade, and I'm going to support my local tiny little dog food store because everyone and their brother shops on Chewy, and no condemnation, but like it's, the Amazon of pet food products, right? Like, so not that you can't get dog food on Amazon, right? Like that's kind of the joke, but I think again, the intentionality of it, is. And then you can go down the rabbit hole of, well, I have to drive there, right? So is that carbon emission now?
Right.
Now is it better to just have it delivered? But at a certain point, I think no, because it's a rabbit hole, right? And you have to again, much like yoga and life, you have to have balance. You absolutely have to have balance,
right? Right.
But I'd much prefer to give money to the local pet store that's been there for 100, however many years. And so, I'm a big fan of supporting local. And I think that is a great way, maybe not necessarily for sustainability, but at least for the mentality surrounding sustainability, right?
Sustainability is all about community-based, local context. The ecological aspect, but the human ecological interaction, because these ecological problems are because of human activities. So you can't just say it's, they're separate, they're all interconnected. So how can we think about that? Yeah, small communities around here, are so cute with the different, maintaining the history and really, inviting people in. So that's huge to sustainability, is maintaining kind of cultural, things and connecting with those small store owners. So for sure.
Yeah. I think
local community.
There's an element of simplicity, purity, you know, and I always say when we're talking about diet and nutrition, I think you can probably make the same correlation for sustainability is, the simplest ingredients, right? Like my last episode that's airing was about filling your mug and healthy beverages, right? And the less ingredients, one of the big things that I said was use raw honey unless you have some sort of glucose
Oh yeah.
intolerance, right? But like instead of buying a soda that has sweetener in it, put a little raw honey in a blueberry smoothly, like if you need the sweetness, but like it's going to be healthy if you can find local honey, if you can support local, right? Like it's all about
Yes.
I'm taking it takes extra effort. It takes your time, it takes your effort, it takes your intention and your conscientiousness. But it also, if the ingredients that I'm putting into my body are just as important with what you drink as what you eat, and if you're going to do that, like raw honey is one of the top healthy sugars that your body can have, right? Like sugar not necessarily is a great thing, but that's one of the best ones. And you're supporting your local farmer. You're hopefully helping healthy bees, right? 'Cause I'm all
Yeah.
about I'm
So
all about
many
saving the
things.
bees, like, so much about saving the bees.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
so, I think that all those are, again, bring it back to the intentionality, but simplicity and sustainability
Yes.
and purity, like in the roots of the area that you're growing up in, staying true to yourself, staying true to the nature of the farm, the local farming. Like if you think about local farming versus mass farming, you know there are areas here where you can
No.
go and you can buy your cow
Yeah.
and it's running around right
So
there and
great.
you can split it with your neighbor, right? It's like that's a
Yeah,
thing that happens around. We're very blessed,
that's
right, to live here,
great.
but that's a thing that happens around here all the time. So it's made very sad for that. Like, oh my gosh, a friend of mine said a cow that had a really good life in one bad day, and it's
Really? Well, that's kind of the other thing is like looking at what is the source of this food, knowing where it comes from. Because a lot of times we don't know and we're like buying chickens or, eating chicken and all sorts of stuff. We don't know where it comes from. So that, and so there could be, you just don't know what they do. But what buying locally like that, you're the source of that beef. And so you trust that's really well raised and it's going to be healthy. Another thing with that you had kind of mentioned about filling your honey cup is it made me think of another behavior that is something to think about, and I always struggle to keep it set up well in my pantry is bulk buying. So instead of buying, and at the basil bandwagon like Whole Foods, there are opportunities to buy in bulk, and so you really minimize packaging at that level. You can buy for a long period of time, usually for less money, and then you don't have to deal with all the smaller portions that you buy over the 6 months. Um, but it does take, preparation for things like beans and, to cook them up and not have canned beans. So that's a transition, but you can save a lot of packaging and money
yeah,
by buying in bulk for sure.
absolutely. And
Um,
that is again a great place to do that. And another person that
yeah.
you may want to check out is that came on to this podcast is Jason DeSalvo, and he owns Coldbrook Farm, and they are 100% organic farmer in this area. So if you are looking, just for your
Yeah.
own benefit, to plug him again because he was kind enough to come on, he's huge in sustainability, in organic and regenerative farming. And if you want local, he does his own honey, he does his own grain. So definitely
Oh,
worth
he
a
does.
yeah, check out the
Okay.
website because they sell their own grain. They sell, and it's heirloom. I mean, he went all out in that. So by all means, please check him out because it's something that you could probably take benefit from, especially if you're talking about buying in bulk and talking about know where it comes from. It comes from a stone's throw away,
Right. Oh,
right?
this reminds me of a program we did around, this was in Oregon, around the 100-mile diet. So join me on the 100-mile diet where you try to buy all your foodstuffs within 100 miles. And so, we were kind of doing a challenge, and to see if we could do it. And of course, you really can't do it 100%. But, we also talked about where we can get great local foods for good prices or, different things. But the whole idea was, I think, to do 80% of your diet buying food from within 100 miles, which is a real sustainability thing because,
Yeah.
then you don't have transportation of goods further away. And, so you minimize that way your carbon footprint and then, your local farmers and and all that. So that's another thing we could do is go on the 100-mile diet. And
I
Jason
love
Da
that
Silva
idea.
would, yeah, he would satisfy that
He would,
diet.
absolutely. Well, we're very, like I said, we're very blessed in this area to be able to eat pretty well on that 100-mile diet just because we live in the Garden State, right? Got that name for a reason.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but now that we are, reaching towards our end, I would like to do a little. Well, it's not really going to be a teaser at this point. It's going to be a straight up spoiler alert. But I did give a teaser that you may be hosting the meditation for this month and all about the intentionality. And, we're tongue in cheek, it's Earth Day, it's April. So we're going on that event. But would you just give a little bit of a teaser to our audience about the meditation or anything about it that you might care to share? And then we'll have that up and out for them in the upcoming before May.
Yeah. Yes. I'm working on it and we'll record it tomorrow. And so I just really want to take the opportunity and Earth Day gives us a great reason to do it on a podcast, is to just ground ourselves in the earth for 20 minutes. And I've got some very good, I've got a reading I want to base it in from Thich Nhat Hanh, who has done many earth-based meditations, from walking on the earth. I mean, if you want to be inspired, that's a good resource to look at. And into just, some good ways to, in our meditation, ground ourselves so we can kind of start our day off at a centered place, in a centered place.
Yes, I love that. Well, and thank you for doing that. I'm very much looking forward to enjoying the meditation as opposed to leading it. I love the meditations that I lead, but I'm very much looking forward to actually practicing the guided meditation. So thank you for sharing that for not only myself, but for all of our listeners. And it's so funny that you mentioned that because
Thank
on
you.
the board that I sit on for the Land Trust, we did a Thich Nhat Hanh walking meditation, a silent meditation around one of our land trust preserves. So we did that last year. So I will definitely make sure, although I probably let your partner, you're probably going to call him your partner in crime at this point, but your partner in crime, I did let him know, but I will make sure to give you the heads up if and when we do that again this year, because I think you'd really enjoy it. But yeah, he is a wonderful, father of meditation, I think he may be dubbed. Amazing resource. And I very much look forward to bringing some intentionality and some grounding and some connection with our Mother Earth into our lives. And it'll be evergreen because it'll be up on, social medias. And again, Anna, thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. It's such a wonderful treat every time we get together, and I can't wait to practice yoga with you at some point.
Yes, I love that. Definitely, let's do that.
And it's truly been inspirational to learn about not only what you do, but how what you do can implement such hopefully mass change from the local, like I said, all those little lights lighting up from just starting where you are, meeting yourself where you are, and continuing on to grow that little bit of community so that we can all benefit from intentionality and conscientiousness with our actions and our behaviors. Thank you so much for that.
Definitely. Well said. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And thanks to each and every one of you for sharing your space with us today. And please feel free to share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast or visit my website, airsaboveyoga.com. And as always, definitely check out my other episodes and all of the amazing sisters at divasthatcare.com. You can find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple, or anywhere else that you may feel guided. Again, my name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground Podcast, where every day is a good one.